exciting things. I love the way that Lita's looking these days. Thank you, Kirsten and Mark, for all of your work. Mostly Kirsten, I think. So I wanted to just give a quick shout out and a thank you to James Staub and Brian Jones from Nashville Public Library for writing our Aspen Weekly this week about side loads.
I want us to find out what we're promoting.
So definitely, I linked it in the agenda, and of course we sent out an email earlier today. So do give it a read because it's a good one. We love it when libraries contribute. So if you have any ideas for something you want to write about for an Aspen Weekly, whether it's just talking about, a specific way that you've used Aspen or just want to show something off, we would love to have you as a guest author. So just reach out to us. Next, I wanted to lead a little discussion. And this started from a ticket one of our libraries submitted. And it's just one of those things where I realized, yeah, that is happening, isn't it? And so we wanted to kind of get an idea if anyone else had any opinions about this. But basically, there's a thing where when you're in Aspen and you do a search, sometimes the search term or, if you search in different collections, so if you switch from in library catalog to searching in lists or in open archives or whatever else you have, it might remember the last thing you searched for and the last place you looked for it. And this particular library is using the combined search results as their default search. So it's kind of giving that bento box view of all the different areas when you're searching. And the issue was it's not defaulting back to the combined search. It's kind of remembering the last thing you searched for and the last place you looked instead. So have you noticed this behavior? Have you wished it was different? Any thoughts about this at all?
Yes, I do. I don't have a solution, but I do if I switch to in lists to do a search against lists, I then get completely tripped up because in my brain, after I've done that, I've switched back to catalog, but Aspen hasn't switched back to catalog. And so I do these searches and I can't understand why I'm getting these odd results. So I do recognize that if it confuses me, I can only imagine how much more confusing it might be for patrons. But I don't have a good solution.
Thanks, Janelle. Sally, did you want to say something?
No, I've noticed similar behavior where it's remembering things. I'm like, why did it remember that one? But I hadn't associated with a combined search or anything else. I just noticed it as like, didn't I do that like 2 searches ago? And that search term is back in the search box again, but I've not been able to make any associations with when it happens or why it happens. So, but it does seem to remember searches I don't expect it to remember.
Thank you, Sally. Looks like Katie posted in the chat too. Oh, go ahead, Tara. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think sometimes it's nice that it remembers your search term if you so you don't get the expected results that you got with, say, a subject search, that you can just click keyword and try that again. And it does have a little bit, it definitely helps a lot with error recovery as well. And I do wonder, if anyone has a sense of how much this is tripping up patrons versus maybe just being something for, kind of like the patron versus staff behavior, because obviously we're not, we're not the primary users, any of us here.
Katie is asking in the chat. Well, she said she's noticed this behavior too, and it does trip people up. And she's saying, do you know how long it sticks around? Mark, can you speak to a little bit about, I guess, what is the behavior or the expected behavior?
Yeah, so right now it's kind of sticking around for your session. So until you kind of close that browser. And the idea being, hey, if you were doing something, you want to get back to it easily, and you can just clear it. And we've talked about different cases for it. Sounds like overwhelmingly, it makes sense that we should be getting rid of that at some point, and it's just kind of like, at what point should we be getting rid of it? And kind of internally, we talked about, hey, maybe we should get rid of it like when you go to the home page, or when you go to your account. So maybe just if you're going to like a full record page, or a series or author page, or within search results, we'd want to keep that filled with your last value, and then after you go away, then, or after you leave search results and search results associated things, it would clear and reset.
This is Keisha at Arlington. I was just thinking maybe if you could like if once you change the stuff at the top, maybe if you highlight it, like so that it will draw your eye back up there in some type of way. So you'd be like, oh, it's still searching off of that to remind you to go back to a combined search. Like maybe it's like highlighted and underneath it, it has like a way to clear it, like clean search or something, so that you could automatically go back to a combined search or whatever, what's the normal search. So basically just draw your eye, because I've done the same thing, but then look up at the top and be like, oh, I'm in a title search. Let me let me go back. So maybe like if it was highlighted in some way that's different than what you would normally see, I would be like, oh, I need to change the search. Or it might be after the third or fourth time I see it, I ignore it again. I don't know.
I feel like maybe some of that is also being addressed in the interface changes that we're contemplating, correct? Yeah. As far as making it clear, like, what have I added to the search? What have I changed? And then, clearing those to get back to the default. So we can take that into consideration, like this behavior as we go forward with the interface updates. Let's see, Katie is saying, I think it's come back after closing the browser, but perhaps that's because I'm staffed and stay logged in. That could be. And I do see how it could be helpful between search types when you're still in search results. Yeah. And Tara's saying, definitely I've seen folks use home as a reset. That's kind of like what I brought up when we were talking about it. I feel like if you click that home button to go back to the front page, like that is me saying, I want to start over from the beginning. I don't want to see my search terms. I want it to go back the way it was. So it sounds like at least that could be a point of reset. And maybe anything like if you're leaving the search results, that could be another reset. Katie's asking, within the interface changes, are you thinking of adding a broaden your search alert / button? Could you explain more about what you mean, Katie? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Sure. So I think that it sounds like you're trying to make maybe the filters in the active filters more obvious. Is that what I kind of heard you talking about when you're talking about changes to the interface?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not sure what that broaden your search button would do, but you're talking about making it more obvious that, hey, your search is narrowed by these things. Yes? So I guess a broaden your search button maybe would revert it to a keyword search, searching in something else. I don't know, combined results, or maybe just in the same area of the catalog, but switching it to the most broad search possible for that thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because right now it says narrow your results, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
some way to make it clear that you take these away to broaden them again.
Right. Or that it would just take away all the filters or something.
Some of that, so I know we've had some issues with like locked filters and stuff where somebody will set a locked filter and then not get results. So I think we're going to be looking at some of the messaging on that as well. So on some of those no results found, or maybe few results found, where it's like, hey, you did a title search on on this and didn't find anything, did you mean to do a keyword search? Or do you want to expand that out? And a lot of times people will say, no, I didn't mean to do that. I really only wanted that one title, but maybe a way for people to get more information. Or, hey, I didn't find anything on list, but if I search the catalog, then I get a lot. So
Yeah, I can see that would be super helpful. We've been reluctant to turn on any locked abilities for our libraries because I do think that with Aspen being a really new interface for our users, that could be a problem with future searches. Yeah.
While we're on this kind of topic, I think I've experienced the thing that, that Morgan talked about at the start of the conversation, right? And it's just in the sense of like, if you manually change which collection you're searching, you just kind of forget. And like, I don't see it as that big a deal, but the one kind of thing that we see that is related is if you do a search and there's like legit no results, and then there's a substitution, like, did you mean this? The indication that that Aspen is serving results for something else that you did not search for, like, is not obvious enough, and it usually leads to a confusing user experience, right? And usually what I hear is, I searched for one thing and Aspen searched for something else. Like, so the idea that like, well, we didn't have what you searched for, which is very rare. But so Aspen serves something else, just like isn't obvious enough, right? That is what is occurring whenever that happens. I think too, for someone who kind of like lives in Aspen for most of my day, like I understand that Aspen's keyword indexing is excellent and it's kind of amazing. Every day I'm like, this is so cool. But like, I think regular patrons don't think about it that way, right? So like they don't, when there's, anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, Katie's asking in the chat. So, and I can't remember if this is bad. Is it related to the autocomplete or is this something else?
I don't believe this is related to the autocomplete, even though I mean, I think there are some subtle autocomplete issues that I have personally, but this is like when you do something and there's no results, it will auto suggest something else, right? And I'm improvising, can you tell? So one of the things that my colleagues have said to me, don't you like it whenever Google does that for you? And I would say, well, yes. Well, what Google does, though, if I spell something wrong, Google spells it right. So Aspen doesn't do that. Aspen gives you search results for something that you did not search for, which is not the equivalent of spelling something right that I spelled wrong.
The intention is it's supposed to be doing it for spelling issues. So I know we have seen some weird, we've seen some weird things with locked facets that I think we're addressing next release.
But this is not happening with. This is not with locked facets. This is something else, or it is, because I know that issue.
I've seen really weird things with locked results sometimes in autocorrect, or not autocorrect, but the autocorrect. Sorry. Locked facets, as well as if you have some extra restrictions. So if you have a restriction for like, I'm only searching my local library collection, not the entire collection, it can give you some weird autocomplete stuff sometimes. So yeah, some of those, if we're getting stuff that seems wildly inaccurate, let us know so that we can make sure to kind of tweak that autocomplete so that it's better. Because it is supposed to be doing, it's doing spelling updates, is what it's trying to do.
No, I would be interested in seeing the weird results too, because as Katie put in the chat, we had not a good example. It's, but it is an example of where they were searching for an acronym that's, like specific to their collection and community. And it kept auto-correcting it to chef. So, but is the idea that if Aspen had indexed something with that acronym and it was in the collection, that it would show up in the search results, but it's just a little confusing because they're expecting it, but it's trying to show them something completely different. Yeah, I think, Katie, that was related to the autocomplete, and you can turn that off so that it doesn't do the autocomplete suggestions. Hopefully those things are few and far between. Okay, well, it sounds like we should be looking at the expected behavior of, when the search term and the collection settings refresh. So we can try to see what we can do there and get that working a little bit better. We were wondering if it was one of those things where, does anyone notice this? Or is it where people notice it, but they're not going to submit a ticket about it? So I'm glad that we got to talk about it a little bit. Are there any other comments or questions about that before we move on? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your feedback and input. We really appreciate it. I am going to turn this over to Jordan so she can talk about priorities and planning review.
Thank you, Morgan, and thanks for that conversation. It actually is really good timing what came out of that for some of the things and the redesigns and facets that we're talking about doing right now, and how to make sure that users understand what's happening as they adjust their search results. But that's not what we're talking about right now. So this is your priority and planning review. So just quickly, we like to show you what we're doing, what we plan to do, and then what we got done, as well as kind of a preview of what you can expect for the next release. So on the left here, you have what we shared last release. And on the right, we have what we completed this release. So with the e-commerce updates, like we said, those are, I have more detail on this. We'll just show you that in a minute. Libcal integration is done, which is excellent, as well as the sideload fixes that Mark showed you. We realized with some of the other things that we were looking to get done, redesigning the account menu and that stretch goal last time of the discovery account redesign, we looked at that a little bit, but decided to ultimately put that off to make sure we could do a good job on some of the other things. The design for facet updates and fixes, we did get a first round of that done. And as a reminder, we want to design, right now, Lita does not have the ability to facet or filter. We wanted to take this opportunity to make sure that when we create facets and filters for Lita, that A, they make sense in a mobile context, and that B, this is an opportunity to make sure they work well with what we have in Aspen Discovery. It's a consistent user experience. So as we were just talking about maybe reworking how some of that works, we're doing the same thing in Discovery. We did come up with a draft of that. We partnered with Swan, specifically Tara, who has experience in usability testing, to do a first round of UX. We got back some really great results. We're going to probably make some tweaks, maybe do some more tests, and then share those. But just so you know, that's in the works, especially if you're looking at Lita and being like, oh, it'd be great to have some facets. We are working on that actively, and there's progress being made there. The statistics support future development. We'll talk a little bit more about, so last time we showed you how you could set your priorities in Aspen, set your priorities. I will show you again after this how to set your priorities. But these statistics were just to help us see those priorities better. There are also some statistics in Aspen to help us better understand where we are with any bugs that you have, any other requests, tickets. We're just able to do some extra things so that we can, just some better analysis so we can make sure we're working on the most important things. Lists in Lita, that was, I didn't mention it because it was a bit of a stretch goal, and I think it surprised some of you at the webinar, but we did get that done. So that was, thank you, Kirsten, for getting that done. Evergreen integration go live. Evergreen has been a pretty challenging ILS, and it's taken a lot of testing. It's quite different in some ways than many of our other ILSs. It's done, they're live, but we just keep finding little tweaks, as we frequently do with new ILS integrations. And then, that says ILS migration. ILS migration tools is what that should say. We've been doing a lot of migrations lately. And that's kind of the cool thing with Aspen. If you decide to do an ILS migration, it can be seamless to your patrons if you're just changing systems on the back in the background. And that's something that we've been doing a lot of lately. So we just built some tools to make it easier, more consistent for us and for you if you ever decide to switch your ILS. Okay, so for next month, again, on the left is what we just went over. On the right, we have a little bit of a special scenario happening in April for our team. We had a number of go lives that got postponed, and then a number of go lives that got moved up, and then we had regular April go lives. And these go lives, these are either new instances of Aspen or those migrations that I was talking about. So as a result, we have 13 happening in April. So we decided, in order to make sure that that goes smoothly for everyone and everyone is taken care of, that we would really focus on partner priorities. And we've also noticed some bugs coming in, and we don't like it when especially our higher priority bugs hang out for a while. So we want to take some time to make sure we squash a bunch of those. So anything that's really impacting functionality, not necessarily like look and feel kinds of things, but where something appears to be broken, we just want to make sure we get a chance to get that fixed. So that's a lot of what you will see in the next release. And then we're also going to keep working on some of those reports using your priorities, using what you submit as tickets so that we can better analyze them, again, to make sure we are working on the most important things. So that's a quick thing of our release plan. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on the e-commerce. As Mark said, the integration with WorldPay and ExpressPay, the coding is complete, but we are testing. So there's check marks there, but they're not live in any system because it's e-commerce. Of course, we want to go through thorough testing before they go live, but that work was done. And then the piece that we're still working on, we are still hoping to squeeze this in before Tuesday. If we get a chance to, we will, to add a filter to some e-commerce reports. That was just something that another partner had requested. The part 2 of the e-commerce updates, we're not going to start those in the next release. We just gave you that plan, but we wanted, this is just what we shared last time. So we'll be looking at those moving forward. And I should say that with those 13 releases, I mentioned some had gotten moved up. Our docket's looking pretty good for late spring and early summer. So we should be able to get even more partner priorities and some new features in that time. April just ended up being a little bit of an anomaly. Last thing, a reminder to set your priorities. This is a feature we released last time. So if you missed the last release, and I'm going to bring it up again here, we are looking at these as we're planning our release. We're looking at what your number 1 is. We're talking about it's just a really great way to be able to get input from a whole bunch of you at the same time. So 18 of you set your priorities in Aspen Admin, but I don't think that's even half. So we'd like to see your priorities. If you go into Aspen Admin, the very, very bottom under Aspen Discovery Support, you can see that set priorities. That's what you click to get into here. I'd also like to note in the same place are those release notes. So if you're wondering where Mark was showing you those release notes, that's where your release notes are. There's great stuff in here. Submit a ticket. If you forget that you can submit a ticket right from Aspen, you can do all of that here. It's a really great section for you. But anyway, when you click into set priorities, this is where you get to set your priorities. And then if you click into this drop down, you'll get a list of all of your tickets in Aspen. So you can choose, and maybe this is a bug that's just been annoying you. Maybe it's a new feature request. I mean, obviously with this many people, we can't get everybody's number 1 priority done every time, but we definitely want to see what you're working on and have the opportunity to get feedback from everyone. So that is your very quick update, and I guess, Morgan is still here. I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pass it back on to someone else now. So we had a Aspen community meeting since the last time we met in the Aspen gathering. So this is just a time to hear updates from the community. So I think that's.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm on the spot and I forgot. I need our agenda. I blanked on some of what we talked about last time. But I will plug you should come to the community meetings. They are great. We do talk about good things. I think last time we talked, I don't know if Sam is here to help me remember. But yes, we definitely talked about the Lita app and some good stuff around Yeah. Oh, thank you, Cal. You're a lifesaver because I was just looking. And cover images. I know there's some questions came about like copyright and fair use. So that was a fun conversation. And then yeah, some fun stuff around grouped works and language, kind of continuing the conversation we had from our last gathering. So yes, definitely come. It's a good place to kind of work out the ideas for some of the hard stuff before they're maybe not ready, like aren't development ready, as I like to say, or kind of just more like questions, and there's not like a real specific clear development request yet. So definitely think about joining the community, and it's hashtag community in Slack.
And I would like to add, because I've been talking to some catalogers in tickets and during implementation recently, and I just want to say we would love it if you formed subcommittees of the community meetings, because I think there was talk at one point about either an archives committee or genealogy, that realm. And I just thought, like, I've been telling people, catalogers who are submitting tickets are interested in how things, work from the cataloging side and how they manifest in Aspen, and giving us recommendations for, what should appear, what should be customizable, maybe what shouldn't appear, that kind of thing. So if you are, or a great cataloger who would be interested in, sharing feedback and helping us out, definitely attend the community meetings and think about creating a new subcommittee. So that's my little piece, my plea to the community. Cal has also posted in the chat that the next community meeting is May 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's on your Aspen community calendars. So you all know when and where, so please come. All right, let me get back to the agenda here. I'm going to turn it over now to Jessie, who's going to talk about some upcoming conferences.
All right, thanks, Morgan. So a few members of our team will be traveling this month. We'll be in Tennessee next week for the Tennessee Library Association annual conference on April 13th and 14th in Knoxville. So if you are attending, make sure to stop by. And then we'll be at Texas at the end of the month for the Texas Library Association annual conference, and that'll be from April 25th to 27th in Fort Worth, Texas. And if anyone will be there, we'll also be presenting. Bill and I will be in the exhibitor showcase on Wednesday, the 27th, from 11 a.m. to 11:50 in the exhibit hall. And we'll be talking about Aspen Discovery and Koha, and just how our partners are using open source. So we're really excited about that, to showcase some of the beautiful sites that y'all have. And I think I'm transitioning right into the next one too on the agenda. So just a little more on the libcal integration, which Mark showed off, which is just amazing and it looks so awesome. We're excited to have another integration piece now with Aspen, and SpringShare has worked really closely to make sure the integration is tight and that our patrons have a seamless integration when they're looking for things. And you saw that with what Mark showed earlier. So next week, you'll see an Aspen Weekly come out with more information. And then in early May, we'll be hosting a webinar with SpringShare, and it'll be just 30 minutes. And it'll be a quick overview of how libcal works, how it works in Aspen Discovery, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So if anyone's interested and you're looking for a calendar piece, for events, and you're interested, keep an eye out for that. We'll send that registration link out here in just probably a week or two to kick things off.
Thanks, Jessie.
Yeah.
Morgan had to run to an appointment, so I'm taking over the mic, but this is open time. So we have about 15 more minutes. So if you have any questions about the release or anything that Mark or Jordan showed, or just things that have been on your mind that you wanted to talk to with the community, it's your floor.
So this is not actually really a big question. I was just wondering, if we take something out of our catalog that's in a list, does it just disappear? Or do I need to go back in and delete it?
I missed the beginning of that.
Sorry. You know, have a book on a list and then we delete that out of our catalog later. Do I need to delete it off the list?
No, it'll just not. So it will show as it handles it properly. And I'm trying to remember, it will either show as that it's no longer available or it just removes it for you, but you don't have to go through and
I can tell you from
So now-
personal experience, because we've been talking about this, is it tells you that that item is no longer available. And if you click, I can't remember if in the list, the title is clickable or not. I know that if it's on your hold list, it is clickable and then it throws an error when you try to click on it. The other thing is if it's on your list and it goes, gone from your library, it shows the title, but it does not show the author. And if I don't have a ticket in on that, I will at some point, because from my perspective, like as a patron, I want to go find an alternative source, or I want to request the library to purchase it again. But sometimes I get this title and it's like a title that multiple authors have written a book with that title. And I can't remember, it's like maybe I read an article about it or whatever. I don't know which one it was.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else?
I was just curious. I know a little while back, y'all were talking about your big plans for the future, and one of the things kind of brought up was having kind of a pool of developers to potentially like contract additional development. And I was curious if that was still on the radar or anything happening on that front.
Yes. So part of that statistics that you're seeing that we kind of like mentioned during the review time, that's something we're actively working on. Actually, the libcal integration was done by someone outside of the team. So that was the first kind of foray into that area. And we have a number of other things we're looking at. So we're in the process of building the tools, and we're also kind of working around not having the tools to do that. But some of these are just people that know Aspen and know enough to be able to contribute and are happy to do so. And then we also have other organizations that are supporting Aspen. So it's working with them to be able to either, in some cases, squash bugs, because that's a great way to learn. Or sometimes we'll just be like, hey, can you develop this feature for us? So that's a great question for right now, since that's actually how libcal came to be.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
We can end a few minutes early and you guys can go read today's Aspen Weekly. Well, we'll talk to you all next month, and please check out the release notes and do the suggested testing things that we put out and give us your feedback. Let us know if anything is not working as expected. So thank you all so much.